what I would like to do is a little catch up. I don't know, when we spoke last, it was about a year or two ago, maybe. So it's a general introduction to what the fundraising strategy of UNHCR is, and also what are the goals of the UNHCR, because for our audience, they are mostly early career diplomats or students of international relations who are getting acquainted with the UN agencies. So really it is an introductory of what the fundraising goals are and so on, and what is the mandate of UNHCR, and also other challenges that you see in terms of reaching your goals, because you work with situations that are unpredictable at times.
Mhm.
Welcome to the UN Brief. Today I interviewed Mark Manley. He leads the fundraising efforts of the United Nations Agency for Refugees, UNHCR, here in Geneva. Thank you for listening to the UN Brief, and don't forget to subscribe. It's my great pleasure to have here at the UN Brief today Mark Manley. He is responsible for fundraising. He leads the team of fundraisers at UNHCR, the UN Agency for Refugees. Thank you, Mark, for taking a moment.
Thank you, Maya. Pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little bit, for those of us who are getting acquainted with the work of the UN Agency for Refugees, what is the fundraising strategy of UNHCR?
So UNHCR is the UN agency which is mandated to provide international protection and find solutions, durable solutions as we call them, for refugees. We also have responsibilities for internally displaced people under interagency arrangements between UN agencies. And we also have a specific mandate to prevent and reduce statelessness and to protect stateless persons. So it's an agency with a presence in about 140 countries globally. And we have responsibilities to ensure that there are protection responses for refugees right from the first day of an emergency. So ensuring, for example, that if there's a conflict that erupts and people need to flee, that they can find safety either within their own country as internally displaced people, or if they have to cross an international border in another country. And that means ensuring that people aren't pushed back, for example, and that when they cross an international border, that they are secure in that country. So to ensure that we can deliver on that mandate, we draw on, in particular, flexible funding. This is funding that, for the most part, or in large part, is unearmarked. So where donors, and in particular government donors, provide us with funds which we can use anywhere in the world. And this is the money that we have available on day one, as I was saying, of any refugee emergency. So our fundraising strategy focuses on ensuring that we have funds to deliver protection and solutions globally, including flexible funding, which we can use in emergency contexts. And also, I should mention where we've had situations which have gone on for a longer period of time. Let's think of Afghan refugees in Pakistan or in Iran, and where we have not yet found a so-called durable solution for them, and we need to continue working with those governments to ensure protection for those refugees. So in essence, what we are doing is engaging with donor governments to ensure that we can continue to deliver on our mandate around the world. at the same time, we have a significant effort to engage with the private sector. So we have millions of individuals who provide support to UNHCR through monthly donations. We have quite a number of foundations and corporations which also provide financial contributions to the organization. And we see that, those contributions tend to be oriented towards very specific emergencies. So we saw really an outpouring of support for our response to the Ukraine crisis 2.5 years ago. So both inside Ukraine and then also to support Ukrainian refugees who had arrived in other European countries. So in essence, now we're drawing on mainly on support from government donors, but increasingly in recent years, we've also drawn on support from private individuals, companies, and foundations.
And tell us a little bit, what is the percentage of funding that goes to support the refugee camps that have been operational for several years, even some are decades long operations, and what percentage goes to emergency relief?
So the pattern tends to be that we have to engage very, very quickly with in emergencies. Emergencies are more costly because you have to set up infrastructure very, very quickly. And what we've seen also as a result of changes in recent years, in particular under a key document adopted by United Nations member states, the Global Compact on Refugees. What we've seen is that governments are increasingly realizing that if refugees cannot return home quickly, which has been what we've seen increasingly in recent years, then the best approach for these situations is to include those refugees in your national programs. So instead of having parallel systems for education and healthcare, for example, to include them in national education and health programs, instead of having them in camps, to have refugees in settlements with greater freedom of movement, and crucially also more access to labor markets, and if people are from an agricultural background, to give them access also to land. And this set of this kind of approach means that people are then able to satisfy their own needs, and there's less dependence on assistance. And this is very, very important, because if people are dependent on assistance, then they have less dignity, basically. And when the time comes for them to return home, or in the case that they are resettled to a third country, if they have been able to work and they have been in school and so on, then they have a lot more human capital that they can bring with them. And so we're seeing more and more countries adopt this approach, and actually this is one of the strategies that we have to ensure more sustainability going forward. One very important element to be mentioned, Maya, is that in recent years, the world has witnessed an increase in conflict, including international armed conflict. We've seen an increase in violence, and in human rights violations. And those underlying factors are giving rise to more forced displacement. So we now have more than, as of mid 2024, we have more internally displaced people and refugees than we have ever had, 120 million people globally. And that means that humanitarian resources are being stretched more and more. So we really need to be finding solutions and ensuring inclusion of internally displaced people and of refugees in host communities, and that is, we believe, the way forward.
And there is a demonization of immigrants and displaced people, internally displaced people, as well as refugees, right? We see this rise of the hard right in many countries, in developed economies, in Europe, in the US, that are demonizing refugees. How UNHCR can counter that in terms of its programs for communications, to communicate to populations in donor countries that the immigrants or the refugees are not the problem, that they need actually help in order either to settle or to be able to return if the conditions allow to return to their countries?
You're right, we have an enormous communications challenge. What we see time and again is that if refugees have secure legal status and an opportunity to contribute, then there are real benefits not only for them but also for host countries. So we need to be able to communicate all of those success stories, and we also, of course, call for a responsible approach of politicians, thought leaders, influencers, and the media more broadly, to ensure that false information is not being spread about refugees in particular, or about non-nationals more generally.
And to wrap it up, I know one of your goals was to raise $1 billion from private sector donors until 2025. Are you on target? How is that going? And just to very quickly tell us what's the difference between your fundraising efforts next to private sector or direct to donors, right? People can donate small amounts through your website, and the fundraising that occurs within countries.
So we have a long-term strategy to engage with private sector actors, including, crucially, individuals. And there are millions of people around the world who make monthly contributions to support our work with refugees around the world. And we also have very strong relationships with a range of foundations and companies. So the long-term trend is for increased support. We actually reached the 1 billion mark in 2022 as a result of the Ukraine emergency. But what we've seen is that other emergencies haven't been featured nearly as much in the media, despite their gravity. So Sudan is one example, with more than 8 million people internally displaced within Sudan, and more than 2 million people displaced outside, so refugees, and also people who are forced to return to their own countries from Sudan because of the conflict. Including most prominently many people who are in Sudan who are of South Sudanese origin, who are forced to return to South Sudan, even if the conditions were not that great in South Sudan. So we've faced a real challenge in terms of giving visibility to Sudan and other newer emergencies, despite the gravity. So we're continuing to bring these overlooked crises to the attention of the world, um, both to private sector partners and potential partners, but also to governments. Governments remain the uh, by a long shot the largest contributors to UNHCR. We are an organization created by the General Assembly of the United Nations. We are so mandated by United Nations member states, and we continue to count on member states to make voluntary contributions, which enable us to provide protection solutions and assistance to refugees and internally displaced people, as well as stateless people around the world.
Thank you for listening to the UN Brief, and don't forget to subscribe